All right, let's go ahead and get underway, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to our February 17th, mid-February. And oh my gosh, it's 55 degrees in Michigan, bull session. My name is Mark Robertson and I'm here with Ken. Ken, do you have 50 degrees up there?
We're at 48 right now, Mark, but it smells like spring, it's way too early to be smelling like spring. I'm afraid it's going to kill things in the gardens, but we'll see.
Well, we're taking care of our grandpuppy, the golden doodle grandpuppy, and this weather is very welcome because he likes to walk. So it's very welcome. We're also joined here by Kim Butcher, checking in from Florida, and we won't even ask what the temperature is there. Good afternoon.
78.
78. And Matt from Houston, can you beat it?
I can only muster 76, but it's quite pleasant. We had a rainy weekend, so it's a rare, not so humid day. You can't say dry day. It doesn't exist here, but not so humid day. It's 80 in Galveston, though.
Great.
Well, Matt, it's 48 here, yes, and I've gotten texts from my daughter and my son, and they want to come over tomorrow and do hamburgers on the deck, okay?
There you go. And golf, right?
You can
no golf
golf,
around,
but they want to grill hamburgers tomorrow, so we'll see.
Well, we're also joined here by Kurt Kowitz. He's taken some time out from his busy schedule to hunt down some punchkis because apparently his son's removed all of them from the kitchen. Good afternoon, Kurt.
They want me on a diet anyhow.
All right. Well, it is Happy President's Day. Hopefully everybody had a happy Valentine's Day. We are going to talk a tiny bit about groundhogs. We're going to talk about getting sloshed. And if you're not familiar with that and you're a relatively new investor, you want to meet Walter and understand why you might want to go looking for Walter and his thoughts on investing. But, yep, there are the presidents, so let's go ahead and get underway. Anything else here, Ken?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
All right, here's what's going on. Of course, the groundhog has come to a close. We'll talk a little bit about that. The new one is underway. This is an energy stock issue, this update, so we have companies like Exxon and Chevron in the group. So we feature those type of companies right now. And folks, I got to tell you, the monkeys are just simply out of control. Our conference room is a wreck. Kurt's probably buried under the pizza boxes in the corner of the conference room there. It's been quite an early February, but we've been having a good time. And we will recover, and we will somehow get control of these monkeys at some point. The slide on the right, the picture on the right, is in honor of an earnings conference call by our delegates, and I believe that's on Thursday. Kim, do I have that?
That's right, Mark.
Yep.
And did they really move it to the afternoon?
They did.
That's unusual. We'll see. Maybe there's something more to that. And of course, our annual tribute from Abraham Lincoln. How do you argue with that logic? I would argue that you can't. Good stuff from Abe himself. And usually we have a picture of Abe taking a selfie of himself, but that's apparently missing. Quick reminder that February is our Invite a Friend month, and we've been seeing a lot of activity. I have a lot of people reaching out. If you've reached out to me and haven't heard back yet, I will be getting to you within the next couple of days. It's just a joy to hear from so many of you. And of course, we have that special deal lasting through the end of February, and the price will go up on March 1st for renewals, even for long-standing customers, and the price has already gone up for a brand new subscriber. So just make sure you're aware of that, and make your club partners aware of it also. Anything else to add, guys? Hearing silence, we will move on.
Matt, with stony silence, Mark, okay?
The monkeys it's not just our conference room. They're out of control in St. Louis. And you can see that they've invaded a Portillo's on the upper left. There is a brand new one opening up in Fort Worth, Matt, apparently here within the last few days. So that's something we could perhaps put on the schedule to visit at some point in the distant future. And I realize Fort Worth is a few miles from Houston.
Yeah, that's a bit of a drive for lunch. It's so far, there's probably 3 Buc-ee's between here and there.
Oh, cool. Good to know.
Oh, goodness.
And I didn't put the news on here, but apparently Portillo's has retained a brand new CEO, and they're being kind of unkind to him on social media. And they're basically blaming that price decline on the right on his hiring. And that's not fair yet. No, give him a chance. And
who is they? Just internet denizens, not the company.
Market.
The company's saying, all the right things. This is just probably short sellers, to be truthful, picking on him. So we'll see. Give him a chance. But he is brand new on the job, I think, as of the 10th of February. So I'm hopeful that he'll get that price back up in that $7 area, so I'm above water, or above ketchup, or above relish once again. All right. Here's our standard disclaimer, along with a few of our Groundhog friends. No investment recommendation is intended. We will be talking about stocks in real time. Everything that we do here is a demonstration of philosophies, methodologies, and techniques made famous/infamous by the modern investment club movement. Basically, how to discover opportunities, analyze those opportunities, build portfolios, and take care of them. You are all responsible for making your own decisions about the companies that you study and the tools and resources that you use. If you'd like copies of the slides, or even more importantly, if you have follow-up questions or suggestions for future topics, we'd love to tackle them. You guys take us in wonderful directions, and we really appreciate that. Our 2 email addresses are shown right there. Anything else, Ken?
Nothing else, Mark.
All right. Take us away. What's the market doing these days?
Well, we're clustering. That's really nice. Proven my power a little bit further apart than I'd like them to be, but still within shouting distance of each other. The gold dot is nothing more than the annualized return based on that graphic that you see in the upper right-hand corner. That 40% number from Value Line translates into a yearly 8.8% return. If we decide that when they say 3 to 5, we're going to do the arithmetic based on 4, right in the middle of 3 to 5. Value Line average return in the green box down there. Morningstar price to fair value. It's a pretty fairly valued market right now. Maybe a little teeny bit undervalued, but that green bar, that light green bar, is poking above the line of reasonable expectations. That's telling us that the market might be a little bit overvalued. So we're getting a little bit of conflict, but not enough to worry anybody that's really been in the market for a long period of time. These kind of gyrations happen. Market's up a little bit today, or at least it was when I last looked at it. And
it still is, tiny bit.
I don't see any alarm bells ringing about anything at the moment, Mark.
No, it's pretty turbulent, and that causes turbulence in the Value Line stuff. Morningstar might be a little bit optimistic. I have noticed that they're compressing some of their expectations as they update them, but nothing major, nothing that I would do a somersault over or anything like that. One of the things that I do notice as I've been going through the company by company updates is I think, and boy, everybody out there knock on a piece of wood. I think that this economy is stronger than anybody believes it is. And the reason I say that is I see cash flow improving, and I see the cash hoards, the treasure chests, increasing pretty significantly for a lot of the companies in the S&P 500, and for that matter, all of the companies that we cover. And so there's a trend of general strengthening. Now that can be early year optimism from the analysts. and we know that they do that, and then they kind of back off a little bit. But it's as we'll talk about with Walter Schloss, those numbers probably aren't lying, and absent any material change or adverse events, some pretty good market activity out there right now.
I've met with two of my investment clubs in the last week, Mark, and the theme of both those clubs was taking a really hard look at the stocks that are associated with software. The general overall conclusion has been, as long as you stick to high quality, the software debacle is completely overdone, and it's opened up some really, really interesting opportunities in those types of stocks. This might be the time that if you don't have software stocks represented in your portfolio, you might do some industry studies and take a look at some of the various sub-industries that all deal with software, whether it's infrastructure or business software or whatever it happens to be, because they've really been beaten down to a bloody pulp at the moment. And I just think it's completely an overreaction to speculation. That's a good word to use, I guess.
I think back to the days of Hugh McManus and I Want to Own a Bank. And he basically posed the question from the podium in Chicago. This is many years ago. He said, do you really think Bank of America is going to go out of business? And the audience sat there and said, oh, yeah, they're in all kinds of trouble and they're threatening lawsuits and all this. He said, no, they're going to figure this out. And I think the same thing applies to a company like Microsoft. I don't love Microsoft, but I certainly respect how leveraged they've become in our daily lives. And it is our biggest holding. Ken and I have admitted that several times here. So Microsoft ranks among the highest component of our family portfolios too.
And it's not only the Microsofts of the world, worlds that have been beaten down, Mark. It's a lot of the medium-sized companies that have shown stellar growth patterns over many, many years, and they've met a lot of different challenges. AI, some people think it's completely new and unique, but we've been doing forms of artificial intelligence for many, many years now in a lot of these companies. And they've managed to incorporate it into their business models and then make really good profits by using it as part of the way they do business. So it might change hiring habits, it might change work habits, it might change the names of some jobs that people are doing, but I'm just not sold on the fact that it's going to completely decimate an entire major industry group like software.
I will make one last final case study, and I apologize if you have strong feelings about any of the people I'm about to mention, but I have watched recently Grok and basically take on Investopedia. And there are people out there who believe that Investopedia may have underestimated AI. And there are many people this morning that think that this Grokopedia, which has been invented virtually overnight, might be superior. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. But I'm just saying that if you have a company that's potentially vulnerable and they have truly not been paying attention, I have heard case studies where competitors could do things for 50% less and still make 10% more than the company that they're threatening. And, it's just, the economics can be quite the upheaval. So if you have a company that gets caught not paying attention when they should be paying attention, that could be a problem for a company in your portfolio. All right. So that's enough preaching. What do we have here, Ken?
We have a list of the 10 highest owned stocks or most widely owned stocks on the Manifest universe, ranging from NVIDIA at the top down to CVS Health at the bottom. There's 10 actual individual stock names on the list right there. It's just showing their relative return, and it's just reinforcing the concept that you can do quite well as an index investor. They kind of reside around the middle of that chart there, with the Wilshire 5000 being our index of choice for a lot of comparison. It's a very, very broad index. It's not exactly 5,000 stocks, but it's close to 5,000 stocks. And that's the index we use to compare our returns to on a fairly regular basis. But there's other indexes right there in the middle of the chart, and right now they're down a little bit compared to the Wilshire 5000, but you can be a very successful investor and invest in that 10, 11, 12, even 13% range, but with just a little bit of extra effort, you can improve your performance by 2 or 3 or 4 percentage points. And Walter Schloss is the example we're going to use later on today to show you what just a few percentage points can do to your performance.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point that this graphic is trying to make, that you don't have to work that hard to be able to boost your percentages above the indexes, and you don't need to go 5 or 10 points above to really make hay while the sun shines. You can go just a couple, 3 points above and still do very, very well as an investor for your nest egg, and then you can live in a comfortable retirement.
We're going to cover the Buttonwood Bulls demonstration portfolio in a minute. We're just going to show it. We take care of it once a month, but that has held up fairly well during this market turbulence here over the last few weeks. And then also a week from today, we will have another roundtable, the investing roundtable, and that is a living, breathing demonstration of we can do this together, and our community is formidable. So good stuff. Right here is a look at that Buttonwood portfolio, and this is some kind of what I was mentioning. The balance has gone down a tiny bit, so the prices have dropped a tiny bit. So the returns have dropped a little bit, but in the updates for the last 3 issues, in the update cycle, it's not just price drop that's driving that portfolio par higher. It's also improving fundamentals. And you can see that the net benefit of that is, even though our balance has dropped a tiny bit, the future value is actually headed in the right direction. And of course, the portfolio return forecast, projected annual return, is up where we want it to be, and we'll keep nudging it higher. So
I'll tell you, when you can put a portfolio together and keep the future par value up around 13, 14, 15%. First of all, that's a very difficult thing to maintain, but it's also bodes well for the future. There's just no doubt in my mind that it does.
Yep. And here's the actual list of companies. We've only got 20 in cash right now. Another 100 will be coming in a couple of weeks, but you can see from top to bottom, IES has been hot. That's that data center company, but from top to bottom, a number of them are performing well. And the companies that are under attack that Ken has been kind of alluding to, here's some of them right here. EXL Service, which we added 4 shares to this month. Netflix has also been under fire. They're in that acquisition battle going on. But EXL and Adobe are 2 examples of companies that are feeling the heat. So is NICE for some, for part of what's going on with them. And
well, we at some point, Mark, we might have to just look at NICE and say, it's a rule of 5 stock, and we can't give you an explanation for what's happening. I used to think I understood why NICE was being beaten up, but it's still being beaten up, and I can't understand what's happening to it. So
we should dig deeper on that one. And
it's not as nice in my portfolio anymore as it used to be.
Yeah, and I own it. I own a full position in my personal investing. So I am obviously paying attention. And Gentex also fits that.
I just nibbled at NICE. I didn't put a full position in, but and I no longer own Gentex. I haven't owned Gentex in a number of years now. So
well, see, you're un-American, and you will be deported from Michigan as soon as we can figure out how.
As soon as they open the bridge to Canada, Mark. Okay.
Actually, they keep threatening to close it.
I know.
let's not go there. Gentex, it's an example of a company that there's actually a wonderful conversation going on in our forum. A nice debate. I think I might jump in and try to put some other background or color that could be wrong. But again, it's an example of a company that you really can assertively discuss and try to figure out what in the world's going on. I mean, there seems to be a general consensus that they're probably not exploiting some of their technology and innovation initiatives. And, we scratch our head about that. And then
well, the point Mark's making is they make a big deal about all the patents they own, and yet don't use those patents to extend beyond the automotive industry. And over 98 or 99% of their business goes directly to the automotive industry, even today, after all of the other things they've talked about expanding the business into. None of it's happened yet.
Now, Matt, you probably know some of these people, and you can certainly recuse yourself from it, but is that frustration legitimate? Is there anything you can comment to that?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you know the full story of Gentex, right? They started in home security and fire alarms, fire suppression. So some of that they've wandered into those things, but just like the dimming windows of the 787, that is not a high volume business. There are a lot of windows per plane, but not a lot of planes per year compared to cars. So I actually liked, and I do not own Gentex anymore. I liked they had a nanotechnology with carbon, not graphene, but carbon tubes that was like an artificial nose. It'd be a different way to detect different particular chemicals, and the good news was the nose lost its scent over time, so it was a replacement deal, right? It was a razors and blades things, but that was a number of years ago, and I haven't seen that make a big splash. So yeah, they've made small investments in technology. They haven't found large volume or high profile industries to put it into, and they don't. I mean, maybe that's to your point, Ken, and where it's frustration. They don't seem to be that upset about that. They're kind of moving along in the way they want to move along. So
didn't they also have a residential window that generated electricity or something along those lines also that I thought was kind of compelling?
Could be. It would make sense given the adjacent technologies. I don't recall that directly.
I mean, they dabble in that technology arena quite a bit, so I don't know.
Mark's big red marker never wanders to the growth column and points out that Gentex growth is considerably less than anything else in the portfolio. So,
but the portfolio,
he's down at the bottom. That's a really good growth number, but it never wanders to that 7.9 that is associated with Gentex.
I'll give you a question, Mark. We'll be back. We will listen to the people in the forum, and we will be back discussing. We'll probably discuss Gentex at the March Buttonwood session. I would guess, and probably nice because Ken wants to beat me up completely once he gets started. All right, let's do your Groundhog update. It is underway. Everybody can. The monkeys are out of control. I told you, too many adult beverages. They've been crunching too many numbers. Kurt's tried to keep them in line. But they did invade the contest, and they may have had an advantage. I mean, it's the type of thing. I'm not proud of these guys. I'm not happy. But you can see that they have assumed the number one position in the contest. And Kurt believes that they may have had an unfair advantage. And we will take care of it. So.
I've tried to recalculate the standings multiple times, and they keep showing up top. So I think
can we bring out red cards like they do in soccer, Mark, or anything like that?
We'll just draw a red line through them. I'll show you why here in a second. It's actually the answer to the question: what if you were lucky enough to pick the 5 best choices? Because they're consultants, they're smart monkeys. They picked the 5 best companies, and that's how they ended up at the top. But yeah, welcome Andrew to the top. We'll take a look at his portfolio, but there's a number of very familiar names on there. Welcome. A couple former champions. They are preliminary. There are some placeholders in here. There's a couple duplicate entries, but that stuff will all be shaking out in the next few days. Again, measuring against these results so far for the market. And interestingly enough, Ken, the value line average is actually nearly 3 or 4 points ahead of the major indices. So that's kind of cool. I haven't seen that in a long time.
And that's the point I was going to make, that hasn't been happening in the last couple of years. So I'm very glad to see the market balancing out again. That's just a reflection of the fact that the Magnificent Seven aren't quite as magnificent as they used to be compared to the rest of the market. That's all.
Yeah, and I need to find that slide that I was looking for and keep forgetting to look for it. That makes that point pretty well about the equal weighted companies. I know I sent it to people, but all right. And you can actually go. Kurt, is this a public link for anybody? You have to be a Manifest subscriber.
Always a good question.
I forgot.
I'll check.
I forgot to check. If you're out there and you can't get to it and you're not a subscriber and you'd like a test drive, send me a note and then we'll help you get to it. But yeah, you can actually go in and drill into any one of the portfolios. I will give a shout out to the new chief executive at Better Investing. He's entered the contest and he managed to enter in the top 10. So how about that? Good stuff. All right.
Well, it needs just a small note that it was a late entry, just in case he wins. Okay.
Well, if he happens to win, I already told him I'm not responsible for any abuse he might receive. Because this can be an ugly crowd.
I'm just happy to see a club ahead of him right now, so that's good. All right.
Well, I'm just thrilled to see a practitioner flexing his muscles and doing it out in the public. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
Get a chance to meet him in Chicago in April. So good stuff.
Before you get off this screen, Kurt, one of the most important things that you've done in the entire website redesign is allow this chart to be sortable. So now for those of us that are sitting down in 70th or 80th place, we don't have to do all that scrolling. We can just take and alphabetize it by contestant and then find our name real quick and find out the bad news without having to go through all the other stuff.
I'm down there with you, Ken. So
I'm just very happy that I can now sort it and find the K's real easy. Okay.
That link that Mark provided is a subscriber-only link, but we'll make the whole dashboard public. You might not be able to get into every single one, but we'll sort that out soon, so you all can follow along if you're not subscribers.
That sounds like a good thing, and I am told by a fairly reliable source that when Steve Emmerich goes looking for his entry, it's so far listed his laptop starts smoking. It's working so hard to find it. So
it's not a sprint, folks. It's a marathon. Remember that, okay?
All right. So here's the 5 stocks they chose. Very suspiciously, they are 5 of the top performing stocks in the first week of the market for the Groundhog contest. And you can see that if you were lucky to choose any one of those 5, you're in pretty good shape. And I don't think anybody did, although I know that Fastly has showed up on Ken's list and my list a few times and not made it. But a couple of...
Well, I'll tell you that I actually used to own IPG Photonics, but that was quite a few years ago. I haven't owned it in at least 4 years, maybe longer. So,
and I suspect there's a number of people in the audience that have had Cognex or still do. It's been a pretty reliable stock over the years.
I'm just kind of hoping that the par numbers are realistic and that's where the par moves for these companies going forward, Mark. Okay.
Well, we're going to take them off the list, but we probably will come back at the end of the contest and see where they would have ended up. So
that's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
I have a feeling that even though they have a $600,000 lead, I'd be willing to bet they don't win. Believe it or not, based on what we've seen in the past from that type of phenomenon.
Matt, have you noticed the number of dashboards that now include Vital Farms? Have you noticed that, Matt, as you've been looking through them?
Don't give me a big head, Ken.
I'm
happy to have dashboards in it. You guys pointed out that it was in the Small Cap Informer, and Rocky Mountain chapter is going to talk Vital Farms tomorrow, but I'm not paying attention to that.
I'm kind of intrigued by the number of halozyme therapeutics are in the various dashboards. That's another one that's appearing much more than I would have expected a company like that to appear. So we're glad that you listen to us, folks, on our programs, but we don't guarantee performance for any of the things we pick. Keep that in mind too.
I would like to give one big tip of the hat to Andrew and his selection of Generac, because that literally proves that Candace Baker and I were not wrong. We were just early.
Just very early.
They had a recent big drop just a month ago. That's timely. It's not just a long story of what's going on. They had a very timely drop right before Groundhog Day.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a good one to see there. So you can actually drill into any one of these. If you go to that link and you click any one of the names, you will be presented with a very similar situation, the presentation. All right. On to the proud, the few of the proud, the groundhogs that have the longer lifetime, all-time results. And this is a work in progress. I will finish it by next Tuesday. I've just been so distracted with the projects and that sort of thing this week that I always start with two calculations. And the intent of the calculations is to see whether Ken has pulled ahead of me yet. And I'm pleased to report that, yeah, we both have been at this for 19 years in the groundhog, and we both had pretty strong results. And he made a heck of a run with 36.3% this year. So as you go across this chart, 36.3% this year, this is the 19-year annualized results. So here are your relative returns over those 19 years. And I'll take either one, but I do like being just a tiny bit ahead. And then I did sneak in Bauer City because they are just absolutely formidable. 3-time champions, and they continue. You know, you do this over 18 years. I want you to notice that this is all of their winning selections versus losing, and they're one of those greater than 55 long-term results. Those are some pretty solid numbers. And yeah, Ken, you have more.
I was just gonna say, look at that clustering around 55.
Yeah. And then of course one of our current co-champions, the Golden West Club, turning in that 68.6 that you see here, 9% over 5 years. And again, 5 years is not quite the same as 18, but what a heck of a way to start in this contest. Their relative return is 9 or 10%. That's huge. And of course, they had a pretty good year accuracy-wise also. So we will round this out and list the all-time leaders, and it's just fascinating and to watch what has been achieved over these 19 years. You're eligible.
Mark, I'm going to guess that those one lost columns right there for 2025 just are telling you how many of the stocks you put in your portfolio beat the market and lost to the market. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll round out this list, and I'll have them ranked and good, clean fun. All right. Okay, this is kind of a busy slide, but I think it tells a powerful story, especially as you try to frame your thoughts on the economy and what's going on in the world of investing. This is from J.C. Peretz. He's a frequent guest on the compound with Josh Brown and Michael Batnick. And I'm not endorsing technical analysis. All I'm using this to show is they've really been stuck in a sluggish mold for quite some time. The companies, whatever he's graphing here, and this is what he is graphing right here. It's actually a subsector fund, the smaller end of the financial sector. And his point, as he right there in the headline, he's basically saying that he considers this group of companies the small end of the financial sector, and it's rich in regional bank, to be a more powerful or reliable indicator of what's really going on in the economy. And so there are the top 10 holdings. We'll take a look at the whole fund, probably in the forum, but it really becomes what he thinks is the strongest indicator. He thinks it's going to break out. He thinks that it's been stuck in the mud for so long, and the local economies, economics is definitely a local phenomenon as well as a national and global, but these don't lie. And when the local economies strengthen, the regional banks and some of these lower end financial services companies also do. So Ken, does that help at all? Does that help with why I think this could be very interesting?
Not only does it help, but I can draw a parallel, Mark. He's almost showing the same kind of chart that analysts were showing back at the turn of the century, this century that we're in, when we talked about the lost decade in the Standard & Poor's 500.
Excellent.
We're looking at about 10 years across the horizontal line there with the little arrows pointing at them. And back in around 2009, 2010, analysts were pointing out how poised the S&P was for a breakout at that time, and that did come to fruition. It happened. So maybe this guy is predicting a similar kind of thing to happen with the small cap financials going forward.
That's a great point, Ken. I mean, you are looking at a very focused lost decade with this group. So pretty good stuff. And like he says here, he believes that when this stuff takes off, this is an engine. So good stuff. All right. Just a piece of information. So with that, let's talk a little bit about Walter for a few minutes. Kim, would you like to give some background on, I mean, you meet people like this in Omaha, and, how are you coming to share this gentleman's work with us?
For probably 7 years in a row, I went to the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. Met a lot of people. Was invited to, I met with Batali when he had his thing. I met with, many different people that I found out. We went to Creighton University and went to the value panel there. We went to the Berkshire meeting on Friday and did shopping beforehand. Had friends come in town. I had my investment group. I had my investment club, and then wrote up a whole itinerary of all the things you can do on the Berkshire weekend. So I've met a lot of people, and I've kept in touch with some from Germany, some from Switzerland. If you meet somebody, I'm bold enough. I met Monish Prabhai and saw a PowerPoint presentation he did, and contacted his office and asked if I could use a couple of his slides because it was on the use of checklists. So this is a guy who I had been reading on LinkedIn, and I was learning. And if I learn, I'm always a lifelong learner, and I'm always reading and podcasts and computer work and all that kind of stuff. So I really liked his writing, so I asked if I connect with him, and he said yes. And so he was writing about Walter Schlossed, and I shared it with Mark. So Mark felt it was good to be able to talk about here at Manifest Investing, and that's how I don't believe I've met this man personally. I believe it's just through all the other people I have met that he let me start following him on LinkedIn.
Yep, straight from LinkedIn. And we talk about Walter quite a bit, so we thought it might be good to spend a few minutes helping people who are new to Walter understand why we pay attention to him. He was a direct friend. He was a person who worked side by side with Warren Buffett in the early years. He was a professional money manager, but He's regarded as one of the founding citizens of Graham and Doddsville, disciplined value investing. So that kind of sets the stage. Let's go ahead and take a look. And Ken, there's the chart that you mentioned a few minutes ago. Why don't you go ahead and expound on that for a minute?
Well, it just shows that if you would have gained 1% from your money over the 39 years that you would be investing with Walter Schloss, then you get the dollar amount at the bottom of the chart, a little bit more than $2,000. And, you know, to a lot of people, $100 turning into more than $2,000, that's a great investment. And there's people that would be more than satisfied with that kind of return over 39 years. But Schloss returned 18%, and that's the number at the upper right of that little bar graph there, that sideways histogram. I guess that most of us would much rather get a number closer to 63,000 than to 2,000. And what is amazing to me, and to anybody that's done any work at all talking about compounding, is the difference that you get when you compound by only a very small percentage increase. I mean, go from 13 to 14%, and you're going from $11,700 to $16,600. That's a huge increase for 1%. And that takes me back to what I was saying earlier. Index investing is great, but if you can beat the indexes by 2 or 3 or 4%, you can dramatically increase the size of your nest egg when you finally deal with real money in real time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there that are willing to tell you that that's impossible, and we know that it's not. So, Kim, what's your favorite point on here? She keeps muting herself. You don't have to mute yourself.
I guess the number one thing is I was a nurse. That was my primary way of earning money. The language of finance I chose to want to learn, and I certainly don't have an MBA, and you can do this stuff. So I think this is you can get good returns. It says he quietly outperformed most professionals, and if we work with Manifest and we are consistent and we have our checklist to make sure we don't vary off target, we can be very profitable and make money, and praise God for that.
Mm-hmm. You guys already know which one I'm going to pick. I abhor complexity, and I think Kurt is an absolute gift in some of the simplicity that he's delivering now to help us discover potential investments and things to look at. But simplicity, that word all by itself kind of resonates with Nicholson's mission. So that's my favorite. How about you, Ken?
Well, I would have gone directly to that one if you had asked me first as well, Mark. But I also like the fact that Schloss is pre the age of certification, which means he doesn't have any things to hang on the wall to prove how smart he is. All he can do is show you his results. And the same thing is true, I think, about a lot of really, really good investors. You don't need all the letters after your name or all the certificates to hang on your wall to be a really solid investor. You just need some common sense, and you need a model to follow. And I like simple models, just like Mark does. And I think that's the kind of model that we show to you on a regular basis. And we ask you just to do some very elementary thinking, no calculus involved, and see where you end up when you're using common sense and patience and discipline.
All right, so RAM goes on to feature 5 points. So I thought we would just simply check in on them, and again, we can just expound as you guys see fit. I'll start with this notion of don't forget the balance. I think with traditional stock studies in our community, sometimes it gets shortchanged a little bit, no pun intended there. The balance sheet is important. There's a reason that Nicholson used that in his first chapter in the handbook. So balance sheets matter. Capital structure matters.
So that means you need earnings, right, Mark?
Oh, I thought you would like this one here. Hope and promises. How about you, Matt? Do you see anything here that you like?
I got the next page.
You're on the next page? Okay, how about you, Kim?
Yeah.
I just run over to another room, so I can't answer.
Okay. All right. Well, Ken asked a question before we got started. He talks about a selling discipline, and, well, I guess we'll wait for that. I thought that was on this page. My bad. Okay. Let's go to 2. Diversification is important. You can get carried away with that, but it does help when you do a mistake now and then, or when somebody questions the presence of Gentex in a portfolio. You got to have a way of taking care of that. But anything you see here, what do you think?
Did you ask Ken or Kim, Mark? I didn't catch that.
Either one of you, jump in.
Well, I'm not certain that I agree that I would be looking at owning dozens of stocks, but I certainly think I want to look at dozens of stocks, and I want to buy maybe a dozen or a dozen and a half to really be able to follow.
Good point.
And I really agree with the some failed and some stagnated. That happens in my portfolio consistently and has happened ever since I began investing. But that last sentence, a few work spectacularly, that's what keeps the portfolio moving forward. And you don't need a whole bunch of home runs. You don't need a bunch of spectacular stocks in order to do quite well in investing.
Yeah, Microsoft in the roundtable tracking portfolio comes to mind there for me.
What comes to mind for me is that 1 out of 5, you think 1 out of 5 will not do what you expect and will explode great, but another 1 out of 5 will do horrible.
Yeah.
It's that yeah, and if it works spectacularly, oh my goodness, like when I had I had one that blew up and I was like shocked. I think when McGraw-Hill Financial became S&P Global, and I think when I presented it at the round table and it was $89 and it's over 500 now.
Yep.
I'm like, whoa.
Good stuff.
My thoughts are on that longer point too. And really, I've been holding 2 competing thoughts in my mind. And if I happen to run into David Gardner in the elevator, I know what I'm going to corner him with, because his thoughts actually line up very much with Walter's here, but are kind of the opposite of the book 100 to 1. But in Rule Breaker Investing, David quotes Motley Fool community member Tom Engel, who says, if you're making investments in riskier, enticing stocks, then if it works, a little is all you need, and if it doesn't, a little is all you want. So I think it's a good thought for non-core stocks.
And a wonderful quote that Mark and I will both steal at some point, Matt. Okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I haven't counted how many highlights I have on there. That is another one of those very highly highlighted books.
Well,
are you talking about Gardner's new book, Matt? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Rule Breaker Investing. 100 to 1 I also have. And
he's
the opposite.
as well.
He very much argues concentration, which also Charlie argued about, but very much in line with David Gardner's thoughts.
Yep. Good stuff. All right. And point number 3, he sold when prices normalized, not when stories improved. Any takers?
This one I thought the last bullet is very much in line, and Ken, you are very emphatic to say when we talk about reinvesting, and the bulleted item, not the very last one, but that's good too. When we talk about reinvesting, that's not That's not a drip. That's not putting more into the same thing. That's keeping your capital in the market, not in cash, but looking at value as you do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to ask Mark a question on what he thought that Mr. Schloss was talking about when he said some of these things. But when Mark put it into terms that simple enough for me to understand, I got it right away. And it's basically when we're looking at a potential return that's not enticing anymore, but it hasn't fallen off the map, that might be the time to sell a stock. And I think we say when the par moves towards money market returns, when you can do better with fixed income, then why hold the stock? I think that's the kind of discipline that Schloss was talking about here.
He does. If you understand that intrinsic value is basically the par, or the rate of return that would basically be a market return minus a measure of safety, a margin of safety is what they called it. You're basically describing the same thing. If the par is approaching money markets or zero, that's what he's talking about there. It's just a different way of framing the math that's involved. Any thoughts here, Kim?
Well, what I was saying here was, it was going through my head about how, Hugh's talking, when you have our PEs are too high, and then when you find a PE that's nice and low and it reverts to the mean either way, if you find a stock that has got a great balance sheet and the PE is low, eventually it will return to what its average PE is. And then that's what I saw. You have a margin of safety, and then when it approaches its intrinsic value, because there you go at your average PE, and then you sell it and you have another opportunity laying in the waiting.
Yeah, and in fact, when you want to talk margin of safety, Hugh McManus has always shopped near, when companies are trading near their 52-week low. And that's why we have that screening criteria built into our stock search, because he's basically using that as a final filter, knowing that that's building in some conservatism. And every once in a while you get damaged goods and it's going to be a problem, but it generally builds in a margin, a performance margin. I find this one fascinating because I think many people in our community still pay too much attention to the words that they run into, and he's going to cover that on his next point. Their numbers are good, their words stink, for lack of a better word. So let's go ahead and move on. He avoided management narratives entirely. I'm told he didn't go to any company functions, didn't listen to any meetings. And I think he probably would be less interested in Tesla than most people seem to be. So, what do you think here, Ken?
Well, I like a lot of what I hear about Mr. Schloss because I'm not particularly interested in Tesla or some of these companies either. I think, Mark, that originally earnings calls were meant to give real information. And today, with the news cycle and the vast number of financial analysts that exist, I think that we're sometimes parsing those words to such an extent that even a single adjective or a minor sentence can be interpreted and cause the stock to move 20 or 30% in a matter of moments. I'm sure that anybody that envisioned what an earnings call really was supposed to be is kind of horrified at what they've become today and how they can move the market.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts here, Kim?
Nope, that covered it.
I think this is an excellent way to word this. You don't have to accuse anybody of anything. I mean, okay, it doesn't matter whether it's intentional or not, if it's misleading. So,
well, and Mark, if we're truly fundamental analysis, shouldn't we kind of be focusing on the fundamental data and not worry too much about the the array of word salad that is enclosing the data a lot of times?
Yeah, I'm with you. I have a hard time understanding how you have a company in your portfolio that hasn't sold a product yet, but yeah, okay. Good
Well,
stuff.
that's mad money, Mark. Okay.
I do like that distance preserving objectivity also. From a distance, you can see the forest. Example number 5, consistency. Don't let whatever they're talking about on CNBC wreck your day. And this one is so hard for people. I mean, you know, we're going to have a recession next week. What would that do? He's an investor. What would it look like? What's the probability that it will even happen? So, I mean,
Well,
there's a
it's
whole lot
obvious
of
that he
questions.
and George Nicholson were friends, Mark, right? It's obvious that they knew each other because this is Nicholson's chant from the very beginning, that just keep at it. No matter what's happening, just keep at it. And keep at it on a regular basis with regular amounts of money, you know?
Yeah, and when he says this, I think Ken's right. When he talks about strict selling rules, he's basically talking about that rule. Just keep making the portfolio better. That's the strict. Just keep making it better. So good stuff. Be careful about the trends. So here is his final thought. And I think this resonates with the modern investment club movement, the teachings of George Nicholson and the masters. I'm pretty sure they did know each other. I don't know that for a fact, but I could do a little bit of homework. But I like this notion of we really need to know less. And in today's internet-driven 24/7 news cycle saturation circus, there's only a few things we need to know. And it's kind of amazing, really, that if you keep track of those and the threats and opportunities associated with those, that's basically what Walter did as he licked his finger and literally scrolled through the pages of the printed value line. That's what he was doing, looking for the same aspects and characteristics of companies that we do. So again, complexity doesn't help. And the simplicity really kicks in and keeps us out of trouble. Any closing thoughts here, Ken?
Well, it resonates with my thoughts about advanced, Mark. You know, I watch our community sometimes get enthralled with advanced classes and advanced training and advanced this and advanced that. And you know, I think that if you can learn the simple lessons and apply them regularly, that you don't need to go much beyond that simplicity to become successful. I'm just not certain that you need to have a certificate in every single part of finance in order to figure out how to buy good stocks at good prices and hold them for as long as it makes sense to do so.
Good stuff. And Kim, we'll give you last word. What's your big takeaway from a few moments with Walter?
I think I would just love to hear his thoughts. You know what I mean? Because I think every time if we, you know what, I guess as simple as God gives us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and if we listen, you always can learn something from someone else. And I'd be asking questions, and if he'd be willing to chat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I like the simplicity of investing, because I get to the point, if you check 20 different things, you could have, you know, analysis paralysis. And if we can keep it simple and make sure there's not too much debt and they have growth, there you go, you know.
I'll second that thought. And again, if you're out there and if you know somebody that's relatively new to this, Googling Walter Schloss or using AI to find some of the things that he did and said is a worthy exercise. So I would encourage you to do that and encourage others to do it. I'm going to close with just a quick, we talk about the top performing funds, again, we've been talking about it for the last 20 minutes, looking over the shoulders of somebody who knows what they're doing. And in this case, much like Walter, these guys are basically demonstrating through these institutional funds that they know what they're doing over a period of 10 years. So we use them as sources of ideas and also notice some of the stuff that they do. And Kurt has basically re-enabled all of the funds on the site. We will be rounding out all kinds of stuff. You're going to have this type of information at your fingertips. Right now, I constructed a dashboard with the 20 leaders. And just so I could show you that, again, we talk an awful lot about how powerfully strong, how big of an influence that the growth forecast for the portfolio, the overall average growth, is a key component. It's a cornerstone of success for these tremendously successful mutual funds. Look at these numbers. You know, you saw this Walter's slide, his ladder of success. Those were off the chart, right? And how do they do that? By having enough growth in the portfolio. So again, Ken and I talk about this so much, you're probably tired of hearing it, but it's worth repeating. And we'll look at seeing if we can't add a couple more columns to this page, custom columns that replicate what you've seen in the past. But from top to bottom, these become, you can drill into these and see what their actual holdings are and do a little bit of dicking. Your thoughts, Ken?
Well, I'd like to get an average of the financial strength and the earning stability columns, because I have just a gut feeling that they're bearing out my concept, or that my clubs use, that if we can keep our total aggregate financial strength at around 75 or 80 and do the same for earning stability, we probably have a really good shot at putting a good portfolio together.
Well, let me go there. Let's just check and see what we see.
Oh, I thought it was my computer that was shutting down. It's yours. Okay.
Oh, oh no.
No, it's shutting down both.
Uh-oh. I'll look into that error.
Why am I not seeing my dashboard here? Let's see. I just had it up.
Still thinking.
I thought I had it up. Okay. You can see I have a few dashboards, people. Here it is.
Mark, you have too many dashboards.
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of some of those. But here, just to show you, this is probably a decent demonstration. Should have done it anyhow. We're running a little bit long, but it's worth it. There you go, Ken.
Oh, there's that number right around 75 for financial strength, and a little bit low. I would appreciate a little bit better earning stability, but I think they're both important numbers to go along with the sales growth. Not as important as sales growth by any means, but if you don't have financial strength, yeah.
You got Kathy Wood knocking that number down a little bit.
Well, she's reaching for the fences with every pick she's making all the time. So
she's every once in a while she's successful with that price to hope ratio, Ken.
Yeah, I know.
So again, to make
the ability to do this on the new Manifest site is amazing, Mark.
Like if you want to see
be able to pull together this kind of stuff, yeah.
You know, here's Granny, which is, oh geez, sorry, Kurt. For some reason, I'm not going into that fund. So this
Granny, I just looked at Granny, and it's not pulling holdings. So
okay.
It just got disabled recently. So, yeah.
All right. Well, you will be able to do that soon. Trust me, everybody.
Yeah.
And I was able to do it with other funds. So let's try.
Yeah.
We'll give the Motley Fool one last chance. Okay, we're gonna have to take a look at
what's going on, Mark. What are you doing here? I'll take a look.
Maybe I'm in the unauthorized account or something, but you can drill in and actually use this as a source of ideas also. Okay, back to, and that will be functional probably by tonight, would be my guess. It usually is with Kurt. Here's a quick look, just reminding that we do have all of these presentations from our informal bull sessions to the round tables. We do have a round table in a week we'll talk about. They're on YouTube. You can find them. You can also find them on the page at Manifest. Here's a couple coming attractions. Kurt's going to give a guided tour of the site on Saturday morning. If you're interested, you can register there. Just discovering some of the stuff. And I'd be willing to bet he's going to show you that the fun thing works, drilling into the funds on Saturday morning. And
What
Well, I
time
already
is the
figured it
park
out,
on
Mark.
Saturday?
10 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday.
Okay.
And we will record it. So if you can't make it for that, it'll be available on YouTube and on the events page at Manifest. And the February Roundtable is coming up next Tuesday. That is our award celebration, celebrating our long-term performance. That's on the 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we do hand out just a few awards before we make our monthly stock selections. And then we are gathering in Houston with some good friends. So Matt, would you like to just give a quick acknowledgement of?
Yeah, we're excited to, as the day approaches, we've got our rooms for the community center. So we're going to be in the big room. And I'm happy. We don't have a lot to talk about exactly what it is. Happy to say we've got a number of beginners, even non-members, joining us. So we're going to have a beginner session to start out with that. So thank you, Ken and Mark, for that. It'll be a great day. I mean, it'll be a great day, and there will be basketball that evening. It does not come with the ticket, but I might zoom off to that afterward. We'll see how good that is. Should be pretty good if we see how good the season is so far.
Is that
we're gonna have a lot of fun.
NCAA tournament? Yeah,
yeah.
It's gonna be really good.
The South Region Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds is in Houston, and the bracketology folks are expecting the University of Houston to be the #1 seed in that region.
Oh, that would be fun.
So not my Wolverines. Then then you might have a substitute host.
All right. Just to close things down, that is Valentine's sunrise in Chicago, caught by Barry Butler. I think that's a pretty good picture on the right. And more photographic evidence of the nature of and condition of our conference room. And I just thought one last Super Bowl moment, that is the E-Trade baby from just a few years ago. Just a nice moment. I think they could bring that back and get some mileage out of that. Anything else, Ken or Kim?
No, I'm feeling good about this session, Mark, and don't forget about the roundtable next week, folks. We'd love to have you visit. If you need registration, there's links at Manifest, and there's links on the Mid-Michigan homepage on the Better Investing website as well.
Okay, so with that, get out there, explore, and bring your questions and things that you want to know more about on Saturday morning if you want to participate in the review. So take care, everybody. Be well. Thanks, Kim.
Good afternoon, all.
Nice segment.
Good afternoon, all.